So I got a question recently about commitment and dating. A couple weeks ago, I was at an event where I was talking to some young adults, mostly college age, about sex, marriage, life, culture, all that kind of stuff. And then I was at another event this past weekend, and some of the same kids were there. And I shouldn't call them kids, some of the same young adults were there. And there was a question that was asked about the difficulty that people are having today with committing to marriage. This is not necessarily talking about the divorce rate in the country, although that has something to do with it. But this is about why young people, at least in this one young lady's experience, find difficulty getting people to commit to significant other seriousness like marriage early in life. And I don't remember exactly what I was asked or how I answered the question, but I received an email from one of the young ladies saying, "Could you say that again?" I have no idea what I actually said, but what I can do is begin to speak to the issue of commitment as a challenge in today's world, but also as something that is absolutely necessary for a life and a good marriage, right? Just in general, in life, period. Being able to commit to other people, being able to be stable and steadfast in relationships with other people is pretty important. And then also within the marriage, it's kind of the foundation of what love is. So why do people have so much trouble committing today? I think there's a couple of different reasons, but the biggest one's got to be fear, right? People are not confident. People are afraid of rejection. People are afraid of having people not like them. People are just kind of running around constantly in fear. And this can't help but eventually make it so that you're not willing to let the shields down in the relationship. And it means that because you don't really know, because the shields aren't down, how you're going to be able to engage the person at a vulnerable level, then something like marriage becomes even more terrifying to you, because now you're going to be more vulnerable and you're also kind of locked in, at least legally speaking, financially speaking, for a time. Certainly, the divorce rate that I mentioned earlier has something to do with this. I think that there has been a hesitancy toward marriage as it was seen, portrayed to a certain generation by previous generations. Actually, you could go even further than that, back than that. The high divorce rate is a reaction against the marriages that they saw, which they had parents who stayed married but were often very, very unhappy, very bitter in those marriages. And so they took divorce as the new option. The kids of those divorced marriages didn't exactly find that to be the most enjoyable experience. And so they then decided, well, we're not going to get married at all. Now, it's not that if you're 20 years old right now and a Christian looking for a spouse with other Christians, that's the entire thing. But there's something to that, right? There's a hesitancy. And many, many people are delaying marriage. But I think the issue of commitment is a more substantial one than even that. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say it has something to do with the destruction of masculinity in the culture. This is not to say that women cannot commit. Absolutely, women can commit. In fact, you need to if you want to have your side of the relationship work. But with the destruction of the freedom to be a male, let's just forget about the white. I'm a white male talking right now, right? So I'm obviously wrong. The freedom to be a male has been stripped away from men in our society. Masculinity is something that is called toxic, just kind of offhandedly so. Little boys are constantly being told that they should not behave like little boys. And over time, this makes someone not grow up into a better man. It makes him stay a little boy more or less forever. And so like little boys, like men who are not like young men who are struggling to have any kind of actual expression of fidelity, maturity, stability, they don't have that, right? And so because they do not have that, they are therefore unable to commit to a long-term relationship. I think part of this also has something to do with the desire and pursuit of a higher middle-class lifestyle. Many, many people grew up in the middle class. It was, at least at one point, still is, I think, the largest segment of our American body. And yet, if you are going to get married at age 20, you're taking a risk to maybe not be in the middle class immediately. Right? It doesn't mean you're not going to be in the middle class eventually. You probably will be if you put your nose to the grindstone, do a little good work, make sure that you make good use of further education, whether that's college education or whether that's just bettering yourself and that kind of thing. You can work your way up. It's very, very possible, but you're not going to be there right away, right? You can't just immediately have the car you want, immediately have the house you want, all that. And I think for many young men, particularly, those toys that a boy would like status symbol or otherwise, just things I want, well, they take precedent, right? They take precedent. And so when you put all this together, the lack or fear of being vulnerable, the lack of modeling in a previous era, and the attack on masculinity, which does not allow them to embrace things like courage, duty, honor, family, last name as legacy, like that's all been taken from them. And then, but I want the toys, and you mix all those things together, at least from a male perspective, that probably has something to do with why guys are having a hard time committing. At the same time, just kind of know this, you know, and I'm not thinking of the young lady who asked particularly, but, you know, if you're like, first date, you're like, so are you going to commit to me? Are we going to be in love forever? Like that might not work, right? It maybe needs to be a little slower than that. There is also, I didn't even talk about, you know, the emotion glue of sexuality, hand holding, all that, right? That's its own kind of commitment. And frankly, as a woman, it's your greatest tool to getting a guy to commit, not by holding his hand, but by not holding his hand, right? Saying, no, I'm not going to let you have this until we have more commitment in the relationship. Well, now he's got a reason to work toward commitment. How's the old phrase go? You're not going to buy a cow if you're already getting the milk, right? And not to say the ladies are cows, that's really crass, but that actually is the way that you treat yourself, make yourself appear, kind of position you put yourself in if you're going to give away your greatest asset to the man, period, right? There is no question that, and it's not like you're a sex toy, so please don't hear that as what I said, but the relationship that is formed in the bond of marriage, which includes sex and then children and family, that is what man doesn't have without you, right? And there is comfort and actual real interrelated emotion in that too. There is conversation. All those things go together, but the pinnacle moment of intimacy is sex. And so if he's got that already, why should he commit to you? What reason does he have to commit to you, right? And yet you're already kind of committed now a little bit, right? Because you're stuck together. But then see, the guy's sexuality works a little different. So he's not as stuck as you are just for that reason. So how much does this help? This is a long topic that could probably go on and on and on. It's been unedited, and I'm kind of just shooting from the hip here. So if I didn't hit at all what I said the other night that you found was valuable, throw me another email at that. Leave a comment down below if you like. I may check them. I'm not good at checking YouTube comments, but I'll try to check them to see if there's a question for follow-up on this. Or you can go to projectresurrection.blog, and oh wait, you can't leave a comment there, but you will be able to one of these weeks if I ever get to that. So goodness, those of you who stuck around to watch this after the other thing broke off, golly, YouTube, can they make it more difficult when they got a beta thing going on and like live stream? Oh, it's just so confusing. Oh my goodness, all I want to do is put stuff on the internet and it's so hard, but that's just the way it's going to be, I guess. We'll catch you soon. Rock on.